Yeah, and you may want to sit out there, it might be easier.
That'd be great.
First of all, thank you all for coming. So excited to see a lot of familiar faces, a lot of faces that were here with us as this plan was being developed. You know, after the defeat at the election in November, we wanted to come back, kind of reflect on that, see if there are some things that we want to do differently, and talk about steps going forward. So that is the goal for tonight. And those of you who were participating in the meetings during the 2023-2024 school year, this is going to look a lot like that, in that I'm going to do a short presentation. You'll have to listen to me talk for just a few minutes. And then it's really going to be about the conversations that you have at your tables. So we'll have some things to talk about, and then at the end, we'll take time and report back. So just a quick recap, how did we get here? What about issue 8 on the election? What feedback have we heard since the election? Then we'll take some time and talk about the plan that was developed and what we think about that. What about a location for our middle school and high school, which was one of those open questions we hadn't talked about. And then finally, time for everybody to report out. So we're going to start with how we got to where we are tonight. And it really started in September of 2023 with a series of meetings with the community. And those meetings took place over about a 9-month period. At least once a month, we invited anyone and everyone who would wanted to participate to come and be a part of those meetings and start to think about how we were going to address the facilities in our district. As you all know, as I think you all know, they are aging, they are deteriorating. The average age of our school buildings that we're educating students in right now is 80 years old. Our high school is 111 years old, and we are still educating our students in that building. And even though our maintenance and our custodial staff do an absolutely phenomenal job of making sure that the outside looks good and the walls are painted and things are clean, there are just a lot of problems that are inherent with these very old buildings. They're not up to code with regards to safety. They're not up to code with regards to things we need to do for our first responders. They're not up to code with regards to our heating and cooling and ventilation systems, and that's just a start. Additionally, it seems like almost monthly, we are faced with yet another major maintenance bill just to try to keep these buildings functional for our students. And so in September of 2023, we came together and said, okay, community, our job right now as a district and as a leadership team of this district is to listen to the community and hear what you want to do for our kids, because you are the ones who need to be making these decisions. And that's what we did for 9 months. During that 9 months, it was a very comprehensive process. We actually looked at 8 different options for what we could do for our district. And the cost estimates that you see up there, those are not today's numbers. Those were the numbers that were accurate in 2023. They have gone up a bit since then, but you can compare them one to another and you can kind of get an idea about which of the options was going to be the one that the community wanted. At the end of the day, this was actually how one of the recaps and from the meetings. And at that particular meeting, 5 groups voted for master plan number 2 and 2 groups voted for master plan number 4. The only differences between master plan number 2 and 4, and I know you can't see it there, but it had to do with where the preschool students would be located and educated and where the 6th grade students would be located and educated. And those topics were brought up in later meetings and kind of determined by the community what that answer was. You can see included in those options was master plan option number 8, which was basically to remodel what we had. You can also notice that that is actually a more expensive option than the master plan that was ultimately chosen, which was a combination of 2 and 4. At that meeting, in addition to the groups weighing in on what plans they preferred, every individual had an opportunity to go in and weigh in on these plans. And no, I don't expect you to read those numbers, but those were the actual cost breakdowns for the 8 plans. And that information was made available to everybody so that they could make an informed decision. And again, you can see ultimately at the end of the day, master plan number 4 was the clear winner and choice of the people who were there. That led to this as being our master facility plan. To build one new preschool through 6th grade building, to build a new middle school and high school building, to move the administration office to the Quaker Dome, and then to demolish all of the old buildings, including the one we're sitting in here today. Through the Expedited Local Partnership Plan, or ELP, because in all things education, we have to have acronyms. So through ELP, the state agreed to our ELP plan in which we would have to pay 100% of the cost for the initial building. And then when it was our turn to receive the classroom facilities assistance money from the state, they would turn around and repay us 56% of the approved cost for the first building, and then they would co-fund our middle school and high school building, which would allow us to build that second building without going back to the taxpayer. That was issue 8, which was on the ballot on November 5th. And like I said, we would fully fund the elementary building up front. And then when the classroom facilities assistance program came through from the state, they would pay us back for 56% of the elementary building and help co-fund the new high school. The community said that was not the plan that they wanted to support at that time. And those are the actual vote totals there. So you can see there's a gap between the number of yeses and the number of nos. There were many concerns that we heard because, like we said from the beginning, we wanted to listen, and so we started reaching out. What were the concerns? And these were the 4 main things that were shared with me. We will have an opportunity here later today to see if there are some additional concerns that you heard. I would be interested in knowing that. But these were the 4 things that I heard the most often repeated as to why this wasn't a plan that the community wanted to support. Number 1 was the fact that your taxes are going up. Number 2, we want neighborhood schools back. In other words, we want small buildings located in our neighborhoods. We don't want a big consolidated building. Increased traffic at the South School was another thing. And then the 4th thing that I heard repeated to me often was, where is that secondary building going to be? And I do not want to vote for a plan when I don't know where you're going to put that high school and middle school building. So let's talk a little bit just about these concerns. And again, really most of tonight, you guys are going to talk to each other, then I'm going to listen, but we'll review this for just a minute. The tax increase would require that we paid 44% of the cost of that new elementary building. It was a 5.9 mil bond issue with a 1 mil permanent improvement. That was coming out to a cost of $20.17 per $100,000 valuation of your homes. I will tell you that I understand this has an economic impact on every resident of the district. It absolutely does. I can also tell you that it will never be less expensive than it is now. In fact, the longer we wait, the more expensive this is going to be to address the building concerns that we have here in the district. That is a fact and a reality. The second thing I want to talk about just a minute is the potential or the idea that a return to neighborhood schools would be beneficial to the district. Compared to when we did have neighborhood schools to now when we have grade banded schools, we have fewer core teachers at each grade level. In fact, we have 10 fewer core teachers required to meet the needs of our students now that we have grade banded schools. That's important, and you'll see why in a minute. Before we had grade banded schools, when we had neighborhood schools, we could have a grade level that had widely varied class sizes. In fact, in that last year, I believe it was 2nd grade in one building had class sizes of 16. 2nd grade in a building across the district had class sizes of 26. That provides a very different experience for the students in those classes. We also had a lack of student diversity. Our diverse student populations are located in certain areas of the city, and that meant the buildings in those areas looked very different. Those classrooms looked very different from classrooms across the district. We also had fewer specialized services available to our students. Extra reading intervention or federal grant money supported by Title I, those services weren't available in all of our buildings. They are now. And finally, it was very challenging for our teachers across a grade level to collaborate and to partner, plan with one another. And what happened in first grade in one building could be very different from the first grade experience in another building. With grade banded schools, we needed fewer core teachers. We now have equitable class sizes across the district. So if you are in fourth grade, your class size is within one or two of any other fourth grader in the district. We have diverse student populations in all classes. Our teachers regularly get to plan and collaborate together, and the student experience is consistent across a grade level. But probably more importantly, these are all the specialized staff and positions that we've been able to add since we no longer have to have those 10 extra core teachers. We now have a dedicated behavior specialist for the district, along with an additional social worker, which helps to address the growing mental health concerns and needs of our students. We have 2 literacy specialists that work with our elementary children every day of the week. We have an English learner specialist that's dedicated to those English learner students who come with very little English background. And we have an additional school resource officer. Those services came as a result of banding our grades together. Returning to neighborhood schools would be difficult and impossible unless we cut some of those services that our students are now using on a daily basis. The other issue that we heard often is that if you put a great big consolidated school at the South School site, traffic's going to be a nightmare. And traffic is already challenging twice a day if you live on the South Side. I will say that we have not done a traffic study yet. We plan to do that, and we're hopeful that that traffic study can give us some insights. We have been working with the city of New Philadelphia. They have pledged to support the efforts to do what we can to make sure traffic flows there well. We anticipate that with a new school site, we can plan the entrances and exits onto our school property in such a way as to get traffic off a street more efficiently, which will actually help ease the traffic flow and the traffic backup on South Broadway. And it's also predicted through anecdotal conversations that we've had that more parents will actually put their children on a school bus if they know that that bus will pick their child up at their house or at a consolidated spot close to their house and take their child directly to their elementary school, as opposed to taking them to another school where they have to get off the bus and then get on a new bus. More kids are riding buses. That will be fewer car traffic. That will be less car traffic to and from the school building each day. So I think this is an open question, but this is one thing that we heard that people are concerned about. Then the last issue that we've heard feedback about is where are you going to put that high school and middle school? And believe me, we have been looking at lots of options. All of these things are places that were suggested to us that we checked out, and none of these options is available to us. The Howden Buffalo site is not for sale. The property at Kent State Tusk is not for sale. Newtown Mall is, Elder Beerman's in Newtown Mall is vacant. Our pre-bond architects said renovating that to make it appropriate for an education, to educate students in it, would cost more than starting over. For one thing, there are very few windows. There's no natural sunlight. There's no light in that building. The tech park, building up at the tech park was suggested. We investigated that. That is not an option. And we have also checked with multiple private owners whose names were suggested to us as potentially having property that would make a good school site. And none of them were willing to sell any property to us. So this was our plan. This was the plan that we developed over almost a year's worth of meeting, a school year's worth of meetings. Build a new pre-K through 6 building, build a new middle school and high school, move the administration building to the dome, and then demolish all the old buildings, and then eventually sell that land. One of the questions you're going to talk about as a table group is this still the plan? Is there something we need to think about with this plan that would make it more satisfactory to the voters? What else would they like to see? A couple things I just want to throw out there. OFCC is the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission, and that is the state level agency that will be providing the co-funding to us so that we are only paying for less than half of the cost of these new buildings. In order to use their money, you have to follow their rules. One of their rules is that they will only help support or co-fund buildings that hold at least 350 students. To put that into perspective, right now we only have one elementary building that holds more than 350 students, and that's currently South School. All of our other elementary buildings have around 200, give or take 10 or 15. So just renovating all 5 buildings is never going to be an option. We will have less than 5 elementaries. Also, because I've gotten this question over and over again, how much land do you need to build these new buildings? Well, according to OFCC, the recommendation for schools our size is about 25 acres for an elementary and 50 acres for a high school and middle school. Asterisk, that's a recommendation. It's not absolutely essential. That would be for a single-story building at the high school and middle school. That would include athletic fields, which all of our athletic fields are located off-site. So we can definitely do it on less acreage than that, especially as we build up and build 2- and 3-story buildings. But I wanted to include that because that's been a question that people have asked me many times. Whoop. Try that again. So what we're going to do, I'd like to invite everybody to join a table group. And with your table, you're going to answer 2 questions. You're going to start and say, what needs to be done differently with this plan, if anything? And then where do you believe we should locate the high school and middle school? And be kind of floating around to answer questions as you might have them. We're going to take about a half hour or so to talk about that. And then each table will have an opportunity to report out. I invite you to write your ideas on your chart paper and then elect some lucky person, spokesperson from your table who will come up and share your thoughts at the end. Had some great conversations. I know it's hard to
I'm ready to go.
All right. We're going to start. Here we go. With the most important part of tonight, and that is listening. And so each group's going to have an opportunity to share. We can start with volunteers first. If you haven't had a chance to put your ideas on your notebook paper, I'll let you go last. It sounds like Mr. F here is ready to start. So if you want to start with Mr.
All right, so our group kind of went through all the stuff that was up there. One of the things that came up were inconsistent language between what we are releasing as bond information here at $20 a month compared to what the bond language said when you went in and read the bond language. The bond language, when you went in and said $205 and a $35 fee, which is the same amount as we're telling people at $20, but they're seeing conflicting information between the 2 different sites, which was one of the people in our group said that that was one of the reasons why a lot of people were like, wait, what's the number? Are we being lied to? Is it not the right number? Why is there a difference between those 2 things? So maybe consistent language between what appears on the bond and what appears what we are releasing was one thing that we said could help. Don't really have a solution for this, but ways that we can reach our diverse population. Obviously, we have a growing population of people here that we would like to be able to reach. Perhaps they are voters that would vote for a levy for their kids that are going here too. You know, we're talking about a third of the school district here I don't know what percent are registered to vote or able to vote, but that's something that we said would be key to look into. You know, I know in the past we drove people to elections, we picked people up. I don't know if they need to do some of those things with different groups of people if you're trying to get them on board, trying to find ways to reach those groups of people also. Another thing was that obviously we have this. Biggest one that I heard from anybody was, where is the middle school and high school going to be located? Every person I talked to said, I don't want to vote for this. I don't know where it's going to be. So, I mean, we're looking at that obviously by this. We said we'd like to put the location in a current site here. Ranger, you want to add? I'll go back to that one too.
Specific explanation on the high school, middle school. I over and over, I hear Hound Buffalo, let's go to the mall. And I don't think, like, we got to tell people we can't do that. Like, we got to make sure that we are loud and clear. Like,
In the why.
Yeah.
Why can't we go there?
Like,
It's not just
I
we
can't tell you how many
can't.
times I hear Hound Buffalo. Like, I'm tired of
They
it.
won't sell it
We
to us.
can't do it. And like, we can't do Hound Buffalo. We can't do the mall. The mall's dumb, by the way. Like, so, like, we just can't do that. So, like, people have to know. Like, we're not going to tell them that, but like, we can't do it. All right.
I think it's a lot of information stuff. Like if people think that we're like hiding things, like, oh, we're going to vote for this and then we're not going to get the high school out of this stuff. Well, we are. That's the plan for everything. But there really needs to be, as we are coming up with this, the reasons why exactly we are not getting those things, as we said. You know, we went back and I brought this up of, do we need to look at the plan? Is that what the issue is? Do people not want to put everything at South because of the traffic? Is going back to square one and looking at the plan again of a 3-building solution where you are not all going to the same location on the south side? I don't know if that helps or hurts us or hinders this group. And better ways to get the info out. And so one of the things we said is there a marketing group or somebody that specializes in this stuff that somebody else has used that gets information out to people? You know, it's difficult. I'll say, we tell people, go to our website and find the information on there. Well, not everybody's going on our website, clicking on 2 different links, clicking on this link that takes you somewhere else, then watching the video. So can you put mailings out to go to somebody's house that you can look at a piece of paper that goes to everybody in front of them, and they read through that stuff that's sitting there in front of them with the facts on it of why we can't do some of the things that we're doing. So those are the things that we came up with there. I mean, I don't know if those are consistent with everybody else's, but that's our first group there. So there we go. Got any questions or anything you guys want to add to this one here? Yeah.
The reason we can't go to Hound Buffalo, I'm kind of hearing, is because of our mayor and our council don't want to.
I can't answer that question. That's above my pay grade.
What was that question?
They said, it's not first of all, you need to listen. No, I just kidding. Why we can't go to Hound Buffalo, I'm hearing is because our mayor and council don't want, won't say yes to it.
That's correct.
Why? This is something.
It doesn't fit into the city's master plan.
Well,
And there
maybe-
are other uses that are coming.
More important than this one?
In the big picture, yes.
I thought years ago, when they built the mall, they renovated the downtown, they renovated the library. Yeah, everything goes for us, except for school. And that was 30 years ago. Still in the same position as the small company. It's not much as good as on the renovations. Now is the time. You guys need to have a more serious conversation, because this is 100%.
So we have had serious conversations, and we've done that in our planning commission meetings, and the planning commission came out with a recommendation to build the middle and the high school where they are now.
But that's not sufficient where the high school is now. You've been there, you know what kind of site it is, no parking, no green space.
You're going to have to acquire property around that area
And I don't think
to
we
make
should
it work.
push it back there another 100 years after we made a mistake the first time.
Yeah, we are, as a matter of fact. Not tax dollars, but we've got a code administrator who's helping to identify houses in that area that could be purchased by the school board and demolished.
All right, thank you.
So there we go. Yep. If anybody else got stuff, they can come up here.
All right. Good job.
All right, so we started with some different places. We got back to that other idea though. I think the big thing, so we started with don't locate the current site, but as we kind of went through, we were like, there's no other sites to go to. So the eminent domain idea kind of comes back to that. But really it comes down to we want to address the problems that we've had. So that's being clear about, and it goes back to what the first table talked about with, like, what are the taxes? Let the people know what they are and make the communication is like the biggest key here. So if it is clear this is what it's going to cost you, then you can sell people on that idea. If you can sell people on the idea like, well, this is, and Amy said it earlier, you know, this is the cheapest it's going to be. Someone was talking about the fire. It would have been $50 million after the fire to build a new school out at Kent. And we don't know if any of these are like 100% accurate numbers, but still, you know, that was what, 30 years ago? And now it's $150 million to build 2 buildings, not just 1. So I think selling people on those ideas, I think, has to be part of it, because if the people don't believe that this is a good plan, well, then we're going to lose. It's going to get defeated. So I think that has to be a key. And part of that is so you got to solve the tax problem. You got to solve the traffic problem on the south side, which that comes from the traffic study. And then I think that's also, what will that property look like? We build a K-6 building on it. This is what the property is going to look like. The school's in the back. You're going to pull in. There's going to be different ways to divert traffic. Like, I think that's all part of the plan, but we need to see it. People need to see it, because I believe we see it, then we can visualize it. And we can go, all right, that's a good idea. You know, maybe we could reach out with, well, maybe this is a way to make it better. I don't know. But I think being clear on that is only going to help the chances. The communication, you know, clear communication, that's the traffic study. We'd like QR code maybe sent home with students. We sent home a flyer, I think, to every student in the school district about this meeting tonight. And they got all of us here, right? And some of us work here, so didn't even get a sheet, but I passed out a bunch of them. But it's, you know, but we need to get people active and feel like they're part of it. They need to be a part of it. And that's where selling this plan it comes from. If the people feel a part of this plan, there's more of a chance that they would move forward. You know, back to stressing, hey, the cost is never going to get lower. And then, you know, maybe it comes down to, if it does come down to, it's got to be there. Is that, and I think Joel just mentioned, Mayor Day just mentioned it, you know, there's properties that have been identified. These are the places to go after to maybe connect the dots, to kind of connect the property with where it's at. Because the reality is, it sounds like nobody else wants to sell us any property, or even better, give us any property. And if someone's out there that's willing to do those things, I think I speak on behalf of the school, so we'll take it all, right? But I think it's, you know, we are going to need to connect those dots, and that there is a spot there, and we have some property there, and I think that's where it's going to have to end up going. But I don't know enough about that stuff any which way. But I think it comes down to, we got to go back to these are our 4 problems. These were the holdups. These are the hiccups. All right, let's solve them one at a time. As we solve those one at a time and share that to the public, I think that's what they need. They need those answers, and they need it to be clear. They need it to make sense. All right, we're going to build the elementary school first, then we'll do that. And I think that needs to be very clear to the voter, because I think that will help them wrap their head around it and hopefully vote for it.
Thank you. Back there, you want to? Oh, go ahead, Audrey.
It's pretty short and sweet. So our table was a little bit unique. We had a lot of people that had either been involved since 2023 with this most recent push, as well as a few people that were heavily involved in 2019 and 2020. So we had seen a lot. So I think one of the things that we think may help in the push for the next election is perhaps a different campaign strategy. We keep going at it the same way, more or less. So kind of what some other people said, maybe like a marketing firm, or like someone that can come in and advise us on who to target. Perhaps talking with the Board of Elections and finding out what precincts maybe leaned no more than yes, focusing our efforts on that. Perhaps teaming up with the Bargain Hunter, releasing an opinion piece every so often that really focuses on what people's issues are, whether it's safety, money, traffic, just kind of bringing people together, because it seems like everybody has a reason to vote yes or no, but if we can pinpoint what the no reasons are and really turn people on to a reason they may want to vote yes instead. It could help change some minds. So those are our ideas for the campaign strategy. It's just to kind of maybe go about it differently, and really have a stronger effort as far as pushing for a yes vote and targeting it on that. And there's a bunch of different ways to do that. But the second thing we thought about was if there has to be a concession made. None of us really hated the idea of going with the middle school site at Central and a high school site where it is now. Using some of that high school space to perhaps turn into parking or green space, and then that middle school site would still be close to the high school. So if middle schoolers are taking high school classes, or if like the middle school and high school band are doing something together, they're very close to each other. It also leaves the option for the future for eminent domain or even just purchasing lots as owners want to sell in between the high school and the middle school / Central property. As well as kind of holding on to some of that nostalgia that I know a lot of people have for Central and that property. So I guess our answer to number 2 was perhaps considering a third building and still doing the site on South as planned, but then maybe revamping what we do for the high school and the middle school as far as the Central property is concerned.
And with that, kind of along that line, if the concern is putting too many students down at South, I mean, if you go back to the plan and take those 6th graders and put them back to the middle school, then you're kind of, you're taking a whole class to South. But then middle school and high school.
All right, thank you. Who wants to go next?
So, in the interest of time, we've had a lot of the same discussion at our table as we've already talked about. So, answering the second question first, we agree that we stay with the high school and middle school complex at the same place. We really talk about multiple locations because that, I think, would impact greatly the cost of the project. So, the problem with that we discussed at our table is the whole concept of eminent domain and creating groups of people, just like when we were thinking about Oak Shadows, you get a group of people that are really agitated and don't want the thing to pass because it impacts them greatly. It's hard enough to pass a levy when nobody's against it. You get anybody that's organized against you, your likelihood of success is really low. So that's the only problem that I can see with me. We have the eminent domain problem, right? With not having enough land to do what we want to do with the high school, middle school complex. So, traffic plan for the south side, I think we've nailed that. We said we need to clarify the tax impact. We talked a lot about that. We talked a little bit about being empathetic about the affordability of the tax increase. We didn't really have a really good suggestion to try to deal with that. One of the folks at our table talked about maybe having a nonprofit or some sort of fund that the community could raise to help those that couldn't afford the tax pay for their share of the tax. But I don't have a realistic, but we felt like we needed to address and be sympathetic to the affordability. And there were some comments made previously about just clarifying the tax impact and explaining why it's a good value. I think that's probably the best we're going to be able to do. Getting the ballot language to match, so we get on that. And then communicating the urgency, because it's never going to be the cheapest. Right?
Thank you. Who wants to go next?
Don't never sit at a table with all guys. I'm just gonna tell you. I'm just gonna say, I was a teacher during the fire. And if we had done this back then, we'd all been taken care of. Peggy knows. It would have been taken care of. So we've been fighting this for a heck of a long time, and I'm tired of it. I got a grandchild coming up, and I want this fixed for her today. Not when she's graduated 12 years from now, but today. So I live on the south side. Three of us at the table live on the south side. Traffic study, we've all covered it.
I wanted the traffic study last year, but I was told it was too expensive. Please do the traffic study. Know the location before May. I understand the reason why it's not specific in the language that's going to be on ballot in May, but I'm going to tell you what, that goes along with the next step. Early PR campaign. We've got to have ownership. That means anybody here who's on board with this plan has to show ownership for it and be able to go out and speak about it intelligently, not out in public, but to their neighbors and friends. If you can't do that with your neighbors and friends, then this is going to blow up in our faces again. I'm just going to tell you that. So early PR campaign, tomorrow, day one. That's where we have to start it. And we're going to talk about the money. The taxes to the, how much it's going to cost the taxpayer. Make the cost clear for the buildings and how much it's going to cost each taxpayer. Across the board. The percent increase. What is the most cost-effective option? It doesn't have to be the premium package. We just have to have a good package. You know what makes a good education for our kids? It's the teachers in those classrooms. I don't care, you can put them in the Taj Mahal, but it's those teachers that make the good education. Get a good solid buildings for them. The teachers will take care of the rest. And so will the kids and the parents and guardians in there. We look at those master plan options, 1 through 8, the variance 148 mil, across the board to 158 mil. So let's look at those packages, okay? You don't have to go top dog, top shelf. Let's get what's best for our kids and our community, get good, solid staff that we have, and go from there. Thank you.
I have to put something out. I was in on this process back in the fall of 2023. And I was one of the few people in the room who was just an elderly taxpayer. 3 out of 4 people I talked to that voted no because they took one look at the busing of the package and said, I am not buying into that. And they went and voted no. And they're going to do it again. Until you take care of the excessive busing issue, this is not going to pass. I have a plan to put the entire high school and grade 7 and 8 at the corner of Ray and 4th in a 2-story building. We have to take down the 1925 sections of Welke, the 27 section and the 1913 part of the high school, and build a 2-story that comes out closer to both sidewalks. There's huge grass space waste there, and what they'll do is it'll allow a wonderful bus and parent drop-off situation on the interior side of that school. And I think this gentleman over here was a resource officer, correct?
Me?
Yes.
I'm the principal of the middle school.
Oh, okay. I thought one of the ones that presented was a resource officer. With this prospect at Ray and 4th, we can put hurricane fence up around every side and have a rolling hurricane gate that opens on the 4th and on the 3rd that's closed during the day when we're not bus dropping and taxi dropping, and secure those buildings so that the only entry is through the one over on the Ray Avenue side. And it'll make our kids safer, and they can have parking along that side for now. Although eventually I was hoping to get the northern tier elementary up there. I don't think you're going to be able to sell a Stoll Elementary at South and bus 600 kids to it every day for 50 years. Nobody's buying that.
I agree.
I think I'm just going to ask the treasurer there if it's possible to scale down that language to where it says, and I don't even care if it's a newspaper ad that comes up and says your intention is to build a 600 student 3, 4, 5, 6 down there and keep using Old South for pre-K through 2. You'll get that. I'm going to sit here and guarantee you will get that. What you're not going to get is the busing on 600 kids. The people aren't going to vote for it. I don't care how much PR you do. I want to be your PR for this thing. But I have a price. The excessive busing has to go. And I'm already putting together a huge coalition of people like me that are gonna be out there talking to everybody. I want you to have your stuff. All you gotta do is dangle the right worm, and they'll vote for it. These people aren't out to screw kids. They want the kids to have decent education. Me too, I voted for $4,000 in property taxes for my house in Clay Township because I watched Indian Valley do the right thing. I read the paper and said, perfect. Rebuild Fort Washington Elementary where it sits, rebuild Midvale, which I've seen them follow me there too when I was up there teaching, and rebuild my old school, Tuskegee. I went into the 1955 first grade class, was the first one into that building, and I was the last one to graduate in 1967 out of the whole high school building. It needed done, and they did it. I give A+ to whoever the team was down there in Indian Valley that said this is what we're doing at past first ballot. I have faith in New Philadelphia people are going to do the same thing for the right package. That's it. I won't say another report.
Thank you. Appreciate your feedback. Absolutely. Table in the corner.
There's also really barely anything now.
All right. So we kept it very simple, but we did talk about a lot of things. I'm new to the area, so it is my first time attending a meeting like this, but I do have 3 children that are in grade school right now, kindergarten, 3rd grade, and 5th grade. So the one thing we talked about the most was that we ultimately need to agree what the plan is, which is difficult. We had some conflict at our table about what are the most important things that we want to talk about as far as where things are headed, you know, the questions. And I think we kind of landed that the second part of this prompt was the biggest problem with the first, which is we need a high school, middle school site. And we talked about the different options and why none of them work, which I think some of us liked the idea of keeping it centrally located. Some of us thought that the town would continue to grow towards the school. We all thought that the traffic survey needs to happen so that everyone is on the same page with what traffic will likely look like. I'm from an area most recently in my adulthood where traffic is insane. So when people around here talk about traffic, I laugh because traffic for me is like, oh, this person is just enjoying driving, you know, from 10 minutes to 10-minute drives anywhere in town. My mother-in-law comes to visit and she's like, everywhere we go, it's so fast. And I'm like, I know, but it's all relative. And I think the idea, and maybe what I'm supposed to say up here as I'm rambling, is we need young families to want to bring their kids to New Philadelphia. I live on Ray Avenue. My husband and I bought our property on Ray Avenue despite my father telling me it was really dumb because the house needed so much work. And I think that a lot of people see that in certain sections of town. And we do see that people are aging out and we want younger people with kids who are going to bring vitality to the city to help us grow all of these other areas where we want to see things coming in here. And I think personally, if we want to get to the no voters, we need to tell them, yes, your property taxes are going up. It will be manageable. And if they don't go up, people are going to continue to move away and not come back. I moved away and I came back because I saw that I grew up in a really wonderful way. And Tuscarawas County has an awful lot to offer in its people. But I also think that people are not going to vote for something that they don't know what it is. It's just kind of common sense. We have to like wrap it up, you know, like figure out exactly where the buildings are going to be, which is also obviously a puzzle. It's my first time being at a meeting, so I haven't heard anything else. But those of us at our table came from educational backgrounds and, you know, just citizen backgrounds. people who don't have any children in the school system, just contributing their thoughts because they do care about the community. Just my own personal curiosity, and everyone who works in a school, raise your hand. Okay. So that's 3/4 of us here work in a school. How many people in the room have kids in the school right now? Okay. How many of you have kids in school and don't work in a school? Awesome. Okay. I just like to know what company I'm in. But I also noticed that this diversity we're talking about is not in this room. It's not in this room. And if you go look at a school, I had someone ask me today who works for the district if there were a lot of minorities in our school district. And I said, well, there are, but this is West. And there are a lot at West and in my neighborhood, I've noticed. And I do think that we should tell these people in the best way we can what we're trying to do for them, because I don't think they get it. I just don't think they have, been reached out to in a way that could potentially help. Again, there's the issue of, are they voters? Will they vote? And that can be tricky too, but I think these people would put their kids on buses, is my personal opinion. And I don't think the busing is as big a problem as maybe what we think. I don't know.
Thank you. Appreciate your feedback. You guys want to share?
I have a guy who has been serving the Hispanic community in New Philadelphia for almost 20 years. The people you have here from Guatemala, most of them are here under Puerto Rican papers. They will not be able to vote because there's 6 or 7 of each social security number all across the country. But they sure appreciate what the schools are doing for them. ESL is one of their favorite aspects. I watch the little kids coming through my store, the kids that belong to my tenants. They're thriving. My kudos to the ESL teachers, what they're doing for these kids. I don't think they're the ones you gotta swing. You're gonna have to swing the elderly voters that go there and vote against the money. And you gotta get it to where they'll vote for your program if it doesn't look to them like it's frivolous and wasteful. You can get 85% of what you want with the right program. With the wrong program, you're gonna continue to get 0%. Please heed me on this and get what you need.
Thank you. You want to share from this table here? Mayor Day, do you have any, not to put you on the spot, but you want to have any thought? But I did it anyway, yeah.
Be a good listener.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I mean, you made the decision, and the city will do whatever it can do.
Appreciate that partnership.
I got a question for Mr. Bear. How much we in the school for the about the new high school middle
I don't know, talk to the experts.
How much land around the high school middle school would they need for our new high school middle school?
Well, currently we have less than 7 acres there. So obviously, as far as the building itself, it can be done in a very small space. So the question is just how much parking do we want? How much green space do we want?
I know there's like 3 buildings from the middle school to the next alley that could be gotten, I'm assuming. And
One of those, the ones you guys are buying?
And one is a home, I think, and probably offer some type of trade for that property.
It's certainly something we're willing to look into, absolutely.
Gotta trade them. The school out on 21 York, that would be a perfect place for such a thing, to get their buildings. If you're gonna be closing that one anyhow, even under my plan,
Yeah,
That's an interesting idea on training.
So thank you all. Appreciate your time here tonight, and I can tell you, I know I speak on behalf of the board when I say that they absolutely appreciate your feedback, and they're going to be having some good conversations about what they've heard tonight and using that to just figure out what next steps are as we move forward. We really were listening, so I appreciate that you took the time to come out and share. And if you have any additional thoughts, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to hear them. We will keep you posted, and have a good evening. Thank you.